Recession, you say? You reckon that we're heading for a recession? You'd be so lucky. A depression, more like. Akin to 1929 in the US. And this depression's going to affect every other country trading with the United States currently, or trying to, under this tariff regime. Like I say, shit is going to hit the fan. And it is going to affect everybody. We are going to end up in a global recession while the United States is in a depression. See, the US regime, headed by the Orange von Schitzenpants and Donald Trump, is doing everything he can to destroy the US's economy. Now, first it'll be, the farmers. That's already started happening, hasn't it? I know you're going to say, no. There's a deal with China with the soybean. No, there isn't. Just an agreement. That's not a deal. That's not a signed deal. And besides, it's less than what it was last year. So it's a shit deal, if it was a deal. Well, fortunately for the United States farmers, not because there's a deal, but more that China has decided to cut down on the amount of soybean imports from the other countries that have, like Argentina and places like that, because they haven't been particularly, how to put it, ethical in the way that they're grown. They've been using a lot of pesticides. They've found bugs in it. They've found bacteria. Anyway, whatever strains they might be common with soybean. Anyway, they've decided to say, So that will help the United States farmers, but it's all too late for many of them. This has been happening for a very long time. Even under the Biden administration, the farmers have been struggling. And, you can understand in many ways, maybe that's why they got indoctrinated themselves into the Trump regime. The ideology of MAGA. No, you can't. Feck it. That's really stupid. Oh my Gideon, what the hell am I talking about? No! They literally just signed their own death warrant. And this happened in the 1930s. The farmers were literally, they went destitute. There was no bloody money. There was no food for anybody. There was not enough food coming in. You had people profiteering, selling apples on the side of the second street. And then people fighting them for it. You had people living in huts held together with string because they're all been chucked out of their houses. There was no safety net. There was no welfare. And what is the Trump regime trying to do? They're trying to cut off your welfare in the United States. They're also trying to cut off your ability to have any kind of health care. Whether it be Medicaid, Medicare, or Obamacare, or whatever it might be. The Affordable Care Act. It's almost like they're chronologically manufactured 1929. And that is what their goal is. They want the people to be on the downs. They want people to be lemons, controlled, or be sheep. Or they want people to just do as they're told. The thing is, you see, people, they've tasted freedom. They've tasted freedom. And they want to hold on to it. Now, if Trump thinks that he's going to suppress the good American people, even suppress them to a point where they can't feed their children. I've always said this, as soon as you start affecting a family's children, shit hits the fan. It really does. Same with Brexit and what have you as well, But yet they still vote for people like Nigel Farage. There's no helping some people, is there? No, like some of these MAGA folk, they're so indoctrinated, there's no helping them. They're lost. Some of them have flipped the coin. They've done an about turn. They've U-turned and said, and in many cases, it's not down to the economy, it's down to the Epstein files. They truly believed that Donald Trump was innocent. And now they're thinking, something's not quite right here, you know. If he was innocent, he would have exposed the whole lot of them, especially when he's saying that they're Democrats. Wouldn't he? But no. He'll sit on that as long as he fucking can because he's in them. He was a part of that world. A very, very integral part of that world. There's plenty of first-hand accounts out there where they have named Trump as the perpetrator of grape. Of them. Anyway. Now, I see what's going on in the United States at the moment. Like I say, it's going to affect us all. And I look at it like Jenga. At the bottom, you've got a few blocks. One of those blocks, it says NVIDIA. Another block says ChatGPT. Another one says XAI. You know how it goes. Facebook, Meta and what have you. There's about 7 major corporations at the bottom there, propping up the economy of the United States, but they're all invested heavily into artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, which will come to a peak. None of these companies are making any money out of this stuff yet. It's going to get to a point where some of these companies, through the shareholders, putting restrictions on them, say, hang on, are going to pull out or pull away from artificial intelligence. They will slow down their spending. They say, well, we've got to a peak. There's diminishing returns now. And the whole thing will collapse. One by one, at the bottom of that stack of Jenga. They'll all be fine. They'll still have shitloads of money. But at the moment, they're propping up the economy. One by one, they'll no longer be that prop. They'll no longer be that crutch. Can't get to think about that now. Who's that artist? Oh, Crikey, with the big moustache. Crikey, French artist. I think he's French anyway. Dali. Salvador Dali. With all the crutches, the droopy clocks and stuff. Anyway, so I've been to his museum actually. It was in Paris. Very interesting man. Strange man, but the people used to pay, didn't they, to just be naked and be like sculptures on his like art resort thing. Anyway, well, it's all a bit odd. So anyway, that part of gender block's going to fall over. What happens then? The rest of those little companies, the smaller companies, they ain't going to prop up the economy. All of a sudden, there won't be enough money. The US government will be in crisis. Because although they've got rid of shitloads of stuff, like Doge and stuff like that, and got rid of USAID and whatever, but actually all that stuff, they haven't saved any money. They haven't saved any money. It's actually cost them. You see, all these people paying getting their wages, paying their taxes, they're all part of the system. It goes around, comes around. But no, we've got this stack of blocks with 7 major corporations that are about to fail, or not be as prolific as they once were, and the whole lot's going to fall over. It'll get to a point where we don't need the motherboards. We don't need as many motherboards, as many CPUs or GPUs or RAM, etc., and server boxes, cases, LAN, you name it. Get to a point where we don't need it, or as much of it. It's going to peak. Your economy is very much like Venezuela. The Venezuela's economy failed, didn't it? One point when the price of oil plummeted, and all of a sudden the economy fell over. That's what's going to happen in the US, and it's going to drag the feck a lot of us down with them. Now, when I look what's going on in Canada, elbows up. When Mark Carney stood up there and he said that 90% of your exports were going to the United States, fucking hell, that is a major problem. He understands, he knows what needs to be done, and he's telling you the situation. sugarcoating it. He's telling you that's what politicians are supposed to do. To be honest, so you understand the severity of the situation. And yes, I've said it a million times, Canada is going to find it hard, but you'll recover and you will be stronger. Instead of having all your eggs in one basket, you'll have lots of baskets. One of them will be France and other member states in the EU and the United Kingdom. Mexico, always have a place with you in China. You're going to have a darn sight more secure economy as a result. That anyone with half a brain cell could have told you, because it's always the case. This is where previous governments have failed and they thought, oh, this is cosy ride, right? Not thinking, hang on, there's a situation that could brew here. If there's a situation between us and the United States, we just had that back in 2016 with Donald Trump in his first term, maybe we should open our eyes. But no, unfortunately, Justin Trudeau, I quite like Justin Trudeau, he failed on that one. Because they're riding the cosy, very cosy train that they were. And it's backfired. No economy is strong unless it has stability in its resolve. It must have stability, and you're not going to get that with just trading with like the United States on its own. Anything that happens in the United States regarding a recession over there, well, then obviously in the United States, in Canada, they're going to end up suffering as a result. Not be the same every time, but if you secure your trading partners and push out the United States to some degree, well, then you're going to be a lot safer. And that applies to every single country that currently is relying on the United States, on exports and what have you, but also on the banking sector and the stock market. If the US fails, and it always does, goes, but then because it affects greedy people. I'm sorry, but many US Americans are greedy people, not all of them obviously, and then it just plummets. It's the same old story, whether it be in the 80s, whether it be in 2008, it's the same old story. The greed pushes it up, and all of a sudden it crashes. People have too much fucking debt, and all of a sudden they can't pay it. Interest-free loans, very low interest on credit cards and stuff like that, and zero transfer. You transfer your debt on another credit card, and all of a sudden you've got a credit card you've got zero interest for a whole year, and then all of a sudden you've got another credit card that's empty, and you start spending on that one again at the full rate of interest. I'll pay it off next month. It's never. It's a form of greed. Unless you use those credit cards because you have to buy food for your children or keep a roof over your head, and you just use them to buy shit that you don't really need, well then quite frankly it's greed. It's all different forms of greed, and that's one thing we need to step back from. If you can't afford it, you don't have it. I don't understand why that isn't so difficult to comprehend. We borrow money for the most trivial of stuff. Borrow money to go out. Borrow money, you're going to have a meal somewhere. Or pay it off at the end of the month, and you realise you ain't got enough money to pay it off, so obviously it goes on to the following month. And then it builds up, and before you know it, you've got 10 grand on the credit card, 20 grand on the credit card, 30 grand on the credit card. Paying around, I don't know what the interest rate is on credit cards at the moment, 16, 17%, or whatever it might be. You then get into a trap. The trap, like for instance, Donald Trump's 50-year mortgages. It's a trap. Once they've got you, they own you. They've got a piece of you. So we do need to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to understand. We need to realise that these people, these corporations, all they are is cash extractors. And they're extracting that cash from you. Whether it be directly out of your purse, your wallet, your bank, or through the government. With your money. Taxpayers' money. That should be spent on services to benefit you. That's the job of the government. But instead, you know how it goes, they tend to want to feather their own nests, look after their own people, and say, F you. Literally. And we need to wisen up. We need to understand, we need to learn how the system works and how it is geared towards making the rich richer and suppress the weak. The weak in society, the people that don't have a voice. The people who just are struggling on every single day. Just to put food on the table. Just feed themselves even. See, that divide is widening fast. And if we don't wake up, it's going to get to a point where we are literally heading, and you especially in the United States, are going to be heading into a deep depression. Reminiscent of 1929. And you'll be hoping for that New Deal. But it'll never come. Because this administration does not care. And that is their fundamental failure, is that they do not care about the job that they are supposed to be doing, and they do not care about you. They don't even care about their own families or children. Case in point, Donald Trump. These people are evil. They tell you that they are Christians. They are the strangest Christians I can, if I think back, and yeah, I'm just an atheist, I just sort that shit as a bollocks as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, people that I know who are decent people and Christians, they just don't want to hurt anybody. But these lot, they thrive on it. They thrive on it, they think it's great. They love it. They get horny for it, they do. Strange, isn't it? It's a strange old world that we're living in. These are strange times. Fortunately, these people breed. And they indoctrinate their own children. And they become the next generation of fascists. Very worrying times, you could say. Anyway, oh crikey, you know, if you want to know what's going to be happening, maybe look at some chronological writings about 1929 and the New Deal, from Edgar Hoover to Roosevelt and what have you. You know, and see how things should have been done, and how Hoover fucked everything up. Anyway, it's time for me to go. So say toodaloo, you know. Please people like, maybe subscribe to the channel, little bell icon, so you get one fast in your pocket every time I upload another video. Toodaloo!